All right, you guys, so we're going to be doing things a little bit different today and tomorrow for 19.1 and 19.2. Today, your only job is to write down the notes for 19.1. As soon as you're finished, you can use the rest of the block to work on assignments or any homework you have for a different class. And then tomorrow, you'll do the same thing with 19.2. We're doing this differently just because I'm out this week. You'll see the homework assignments pop up in my H or W, but I want you to write down on the top of your paper right now, no H or W tonight. And tonight is what? February 1st. So you're not going to do the HRW homework tonight when you get home for these. We're going to do them next week, okay? So just keep that in mind. I want to make sure that that's something that you hear me say and that it doesn't get lost in translation. So in 19.1, we're starting a brand new unit, Unit 8. It starts out with a couple of sections that talk about different kinds of angle pairs. And so that's the job for the notes for today. All of these different types of angles that we're talking about, notice that all of them end with the letter S. So adjacent angles means you have more than one angle. Complementary angles, supplementary angles. A linear pair, a pair is two things, like a pair of shoes. You have two shoes, so pair means two. And then vertical angles with an S. So all of these are pairs of angles. Adjacent angles are defined as being two angles that share a common side and a common vertex. So adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other, but they have to have a side that's the same. So if I drew a picture over here, let's see, here we go. Angle 1 and angle 2 in this picture would be adjacent angles because they share the same vertex, and this side that's in the middle is a side on angle 1 and it's a side on angle 2. Complementary angles and supplementary angles can be adjacent, but it's also possible that they're separate from each other. They're not adjacent to one another. So complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. And then supplementary angles are two angles that add up to 180 degrees. And like I said before, these angles can be angles that are next to each other, or they can be angles that are separate. And so both of those fall under the definition of complementary and supplementary. Supplementary angles add up to 180 degrees, which means if you add them up, they're a straight line. And that's actually the definition of a linear pair. We've practiced linear pair before. A linear pair means that the two angles form a line. And so it is true that all angles that form a linear pair, here's one angle and here's the other angle, it's true that they always add up to equal 180 degrees. So that's something that's always true about a linear pair. Angle 1 and angle 2 are also supplementary if they are a linear pair. The definition for linear pair is a little bit technical. I'm going to have you write it down, but I want you to remember the picture more than I want you to remember the definition. A linear pair is two adjacent angles whose non-common sides form opposite rays. And so what this is actually saying is, it's saying that, so they're adjacent, which means they have to have one side that's in common. And so this is saying that the other two sides, so the sides that aren't the side that's the same, one of them's going in this direction, and then the other one is going exactly in the opposite direction. And so that's what makes it be 180 degrees. But if you can remember that linear pair means that it's a line, you'll remember better with the picture, or some people think so. Vertical angles are different because vertical angles make the letter X. So come over here and draw the picture. So draw two lines that crisscross and they make a letter X shape. Vertical angles are the ones in the picture that are across from each other. And so when you're writing a definition for vertical angles, we'll still write the definition down. But so I'm going to use color in my picture. The pink angles would be the vertical angles because they're the ones that are across from each other. And then the same would also be true, I'll do the other ones in blue. The blue angles here and here would be vertical angles because those are the ones across from each other. There's also linear pairs in this picture too. Like if I covered up this part, this pink and this blue are next to each other. So those are a linear pair. Those are a linear pair. I don't know if I did that one yet. These are a linear pair. These ones are a linear pair as well. But the ones that are across from each other are vertical angles. And those ones are different. These two add up to 180. These two add up to 180. So what that means is that the pink ones actually have to be equal. And then the same thing's true about the blue ones. These two add up to 180. And these two add up to 180. So that means that the blue ones have to be equal as well. So the definition that we write down for vertical angles is two angles whose sides form two pairs of opposite rays. So that's the official definition. But over here in the box, like for this one, we said that linear pairs always add up to equal 180. Over here in this box, I want you to write down that vertical angles are always congruent. So the difference is that if you're talking about a linear pair, you would add them up to equal 180. But if you were solving something with vertical angles, you would set them equal to each other because they're equal to each other. They're congruent. So that's good for me to mention now while we're practicing with the definitions. And then we're going to keep going with the rest of the notes with some examples. So these questions that we're going to do next ask us to say whether the indicated angles are adjacent. This one wants us to say whether they're complementary, supplementary, or vertical. And then the ones down here ask us to